Hello, I'm Annette again, and I've been talking this month all about what to do when you can't sleep, how to manage, what to actually do when you're lying awake and you cannot sleep. And so far, I've not referred to breathing, but it's really fundamental and may well make a big difference. So I strongly recommend giving this some consideration, and not simply as a breathing meditation, but there's quite a lot more to it. I'm going to ask if you've identified any of these traits in yourself, or if you go on to identify them now that I'm talking about them. Are you aware of ever breathing through your mouth rather than through your nose? And I'm talking here about at rest, not when you're doing some big physical exercise. Whereabouts do you tend to breathe most? Do you find you're breathing a lot in your upper chest? How fast do you breathe? And this one's difficult because, of course, our breathing is normal to us, and we tend to think that our breathing is therefore a normal speed, but sometimes it's a bit faster than it ideally should be. What about unconscious breath holds? These are very hard to identify until you start to become aware of them. And there's now a thing that's real, and you may have heard of sleep apnea. Well, there's another one now that's being called email apnea. And a lot of people are doing these unconscious breath holds whilst they're reading their email, possibly because sometimes there's a little bit of tension, wondering what's coming up next in the inbox. But it's making people stop, hold their breath. And that in itself isn't a hugely bad thing, although doing it consciously is much more beneficial. But what it means is that at the end of that breath hold, a lot of people are then breathing too quickly to get the air in that they missed out on before. And this all contributes to this kind of dysfunctional breathing, really. And the breathing may also be unrhythmic, it may be chaotic, contributed to by things like unconscious breath holds and frequent sighing. So if you've noticed any of those in yourself, and to be honest, the overwhelming majority of us do have this nowadays, as long as it's, I'm talking really about something that's fairly frequent, so something that happens often rather than every now and then. I mean, if it's once in a while, it's not quite the same thing. But if you do notice these traits, and I certainly noticed most of these, then breathing may be a really good place to start. And by doing so, you'll activate the part of the nervous system that's responsible for rest and repair, which of course is really beneficial to you. Now, have you ever been in a situation where you or someone else that you've been with is hyperventilating or even in panic? What does that look like? Probably this. You probably find that that person is breathing really fast and hard. They're taking in big breaths so that they can gasp and get more air in, because that's what it feels like you need. That breathing is also, because it's fast, it's in the upper chest. And also, it tends to be through the mouth. And that, again, is so that you can get more air in, the sense that you need to get lots of air in to feel right. And it just contributes more and more to the cycle of hyperventilating and panic. Now, the good news about this is it provides us a really easy way of determining what it is that we need to do in order to effect the opposite feeling and the opposite results in our body. So let's take a look. Instead of fast and hard breathing, if we breathe softly and gently, then we're going to be in a much calmer state. Gasping and the big breaths can be replaced ultimately by slower, smaller breaths. And instead of upper chest breathing, deep breathing is to be recommended. Now, deep breathing has come to be associated with big breathing, and that really is not the case. Deep breaths can be very small, but they need to go to where they're going to make the biggest effect. So down to the bottom of the lungs where the gas exchange takes place. And that really is the only best useful definition of a deep breath. It's not a big breath. And instead of breathing through the mouth, which of course is not really designed for breathing, it's designed for talking and eating, but the nose is there for breathing through. And this is really important. I know there are some people who have a physical obstruction that really does prevent or hinder breathing through the nose, but the overwhelming majority of us can breathe through our noses, but find it difficult because they feel a bit blocked. it does help to breathe more and more through your nose to actually unblock it. So it's really worth persevering with nasal breathing, even though it will feel odd if it's something that you're not very used to. And let's have a look at some of the benefits of doing the relaxed breathing. Well, as I've already mentioned, it stimulates the rest, digest, and recovery part of the autonomic nervous system. So, of course, if you're lying awake in bed at night, this is absolutely huge. I will say that if you try to slow down your breathing, sometimes it's not that easy to do. It sounds like the easiest thing possible, and it just may not be. But we'll come to what you can do about that in the next video. The relaxed breathing is going to better oxygenate your tissues and organs because the oxygen can get to where it needs to go to. It ends up in the lower part of your lungs if you're breathing relaxed, slow, and deeply. And it then gets out to where it's needed. Big breaths that stay in the upper chest, that doesn't happen. It just doesn't happen. The oxygenation is poor. And a lot of that air is just breathed straight back out without having undergone any of the uses that we want it for. Now, to breathe through the nose, this is just so magnificent. It's not talked about enough. Of course, it's a filtration system. It warms the air, it moistens the air, it filters it, it conditions it. And in addition to that, in the sinuses, in the nasal cavity, we have NO, which stands for nitric oxide. And nitric oxide is antiviral, antibacterial, and it dilates the airways. So in order to give us our first line of defense against pathogens, if we're breathing through our noses, we've got a better chance of resisting some of the pathogenic germs that are flying around. And of course, this might have been very useful, and may still be very useful information to know during the last couple of years. It wouldn't have stopped the spread of the corona pandemic, but it might have made things a little bit easier for some people, and it may have had beneficial long-term overall effects for more people. Who knows? It's always worth trying when we've already got a system in place in our own bodies. So there are a lot of effects of relaxed breathing that will have, because of course, if you're oxygenating your tissues and organs better, you're going to find that you're probably a little bit healthier than you were when that wasn't happening in all sorts of different parts of your body. So these effects are in addition to the benefits of meditation that we've referred to before. And you can do this as a meditation in the sense that you can learn to breathe more slowly and practice that and bring it into your waking time at night. And you never know, there's just a chance it may help you get back to sleep. But if not, it's such a useful thing to do for your own health and your own sanity. It just helps with the peace of mind. So we'll take a look in the next video about what that actually looks like. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.